Good afternoon. We have Director Falk Nosen, Sports Authority. If you would introduce your staff member, and then you were here earlier when I read the official question, so I'll save you the grief of that one. If you would just go right in your presentation.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Pridemore, members of the Budget and Finance Committee, and members of the Metro Council. I'm Monica Faulkneson, Executive Director of the Sports Authority, and with me today is our Chair, Kim Adkins. In the audience from our office is Alicia Montesserin, our parking contractor, Brasher Burbank, Vice President of Stewart Parking Solutions, is here, as our representatives from the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Titans, and the Nashville Sounds. We are so fortunate to have a tremendous team, wonderful partners, and a very engaged board of directors, and we couldn't do this without them. We are always excited to talk about the dynamic teams and facilities that make up Nashville's vibrant and growing sports landscape. The Sports Authority has oversight responsibility for Nissan Stadium, Bridgestone Arena, Ford Ice Center, and First Tennessee Park. And we take our charge to maintain and care for these facilities very seriously. Our constant aim is always to do this in ways that result in first-class facilities able to attract events that will spur economic growth, events like the SEC and the NCAA basketball tournaments, an NHL All-Star Weekend, the Music City Bowl, and concerts like Rolling Stones and Beyonce, whom you may have heard will be here on October the 2nd. I would like to thank the Mayor and the PIP Review Committee for including funding for our public investment plan in the recommended budget. We have requested $53,700 for one full-time employee, a special events coordinator. So as the city continues to experience unparalleled growth, we are all aware that parking, especially downtown, continues to pose a real challenge for residents and visitors alike. Nissan Stadium, which has one of the largest amounts of available surface parking downtown, continues to grow as a favorite destination for races, 5Ks, walks, and many other special events. And as the number of events grows, so does the need for better coordination. Clearly, the location, downtown, by the park, on the river, close to the pedestrian bridge, is a huge factor, but the availability of parking is also a major reason why we continue to attract events downtown. Parking has become a critical component in the success of events. In the last 3 years, the number of Sports Authority events alone at Nissan Stadium has increased by 177%, and event parking revenue has increased from $95,000 to $210,000, an increase of 120%. And this does not include Titans events, events at Cumberland Park, the Bridge Building, Ascend Amphitheater, and parking for events at Bridgestone Arena through the Nashville Downtown Partnership. In total, we estimate that there will be 750 parking events at Nissan Stadium this year. And it's clear to us that with a special events coordinator, the Sports Authority can more effectively take the lead in addressing the needs of our civic event organizers. So a partial list of some of the organizations and some of the events that we work with has been provided for you. We strive to do everything in our power to assist and support the businesses and event organizers, many of which are nonprofits and charitable organizations who come to us seeking an event location or parking for their event. The Sports Authority is part of the Mayor's Office Special Events team, and we spend a great deal of time working with the Mayor's Office, Metro Parks, Police, Public Works, MTA, and the Fire Marshal's Office on event logistics. The Sports Authority also serves as the administrator of a high-use calendar shared by many of these same departments, as well as the Titans and Ascend Amphitheater. But we are a department of only 2 full-time employees, and we have oversight of the city's professional sports facilities. So as the number of events continues to grow, it's our view that the addition of a special events coordinator is necessary for our department to continue to provide the highest level of service to our constituents. With the additional position, we can shorten our response times, conduct more site visits, and deepen our overall level of engagement with the community. We will also have the ability to more thoroughly analyze events and their use of space in the Nissan Stadium footprint. And this will allow us to catch more potential conflicts and maximize the number of events that can coexist on any given day. Also, the more events we have, the greater the amount of revenue generated, and all parking revenue is dedicated to paying off stadium bonds. So that's a win-win for everyone. So I appreciate your time and your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Glover.
Chair, I want to just help me through this, and forgive me if I'm asking to the wrong group. With the bond issue we did a couple of years ago, where we raised from $2 to $3 per ticket, does that funding go through your authority?
The Sports Authority does issue those bonds with authorization from the Metro Council.
Okay. How are we doing in that arena? I realize it's a capital, and forgive me on this. Are we doing well? Because I know you said the Rolling Stones, Beyonce. Are we doing well as far as adding additional events to where we're kind of building up that reserve fund to where if we happen to have a down year, at some point in the cycle we will, then we built up enough reserve funds to be able to make sure that we can maintain the payments and not put an additional burden on the taxpayers?
Yeah, I think that and you'll see the list of events at Nissan Stadium in front of you.
I was looking.
And as you look at that, then you'll see that the Titans have been very aggressive in marketing the stadium in new ways. So we are seeing events like Beyonce and Monster Truck Jam, the Mexican national soccer team, and Guns N' Roses. And so as we continue to attract, and the Titans do an excellent job of bringing in more and more events, and we receive the user fee money, then that is a very important stream of revenue for us.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yes.
And your chair there. You have a great board. I thought it was like four of y'all, 4 people down there, 4 employees. It's just 2.
2 of us.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
So I wanted to understand a little bit more about the person who would handle the parking, and also just to kind of talk about if they would be negotiating the prices as well, or are they just analyzing the space? Because what I hear from a lot of people is that in addition to there being a shortage of parking, that has gotten very pricey, like $25, $30, $35 for parking. So I just wanted to know, would that be a part of it as well? And if you could just speak a little bit more to that.
We do have a parking contractor in Brasher who is with us today. And so in terms of setting parking fees, then we do rely on his counsel and advice. He is our parking expert, so we work with him. We rely on his advice, but this position would work closely with the parking contractor and then also serve to help generate more events. So they'll be doing things working, I would say, specifically with the community. So we want to increase the number of site visits. We have first-time events, and we have recurring events and organizers. So we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to, especially our first-time events, to come if they need to go over to the stadium, look at the different lots, determine which lots would best meet the need for their event, then this position would do that. They would also be reviewing the civic event applications as they come in, meeting with the special events team and other Metro departments, reviewing special event revenues as they come in, and just responding to general inquiries.
And then I have one more question to follow up. So then, will you also work with, I think Rory Roaring is the person that handles the special events here, and do y'all have a system that you share?
Well, a lot of that now, and it's a great question, is really being run through the mayor's special events team with Claudia Husky, who is overseeing that. And so we do have Public Works with Rory, Gordon Richards, MTA, the police, and so it's a real collaborative effort. We meet usually weekly, and we will review permits that have come in. We will meet with the event organizers, look at and determine race routes. We need to make sure that, even just looking at last weekend, there were 2 different 5Ks going on about the same time. And so we want to make sure that there are no conflicts, that as many people can get out and participate and enjoy. And this happens as well, there may be 2 different races going on, and at the same time, the Titans have delivery trucks that need to get in the day before a game. So it's a lot of logistics, and we do work very closely with Rory.
Okay, sounds like a good deal. So will you be putting the information up on, I know some of the different organizations downtown release the information to the downtown residents. Will you do that, or can they go to the website and see the information when there's 2 5Ks going on, a road has been closed down, and there's something going on there? How do they get access to the information that you'll be using from the new person that will be working on this for the residents?
There is a shared online event calendar that is a collaboration with other metro agencies, basically the same special events team. And so that calendar is available. We email it out each week, and so any organization, any neighborhood association that would like to be included in that list, we're happy to send them out. We can put it on the website, yes.
Councilman Cooper?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Director, for being here. I have sort of a new person's question. If you didn't mind walking through, who gets the revenue when there's an event? Adele comes to the Bridgestone Arena, a lot of traffic downtown, things are backed up. Obviously, good for the city. Who actually is getting the revenue from that event? If you would walk through from the purchase of the ticket, say I park my car and I buy a ticket, where does that revenue go?
If you are at Nissan Stadium, and our parking, for the most part, our parking program is based and focused primarily around Nissan Stadium. I'm trying to see you and talking to the mic.
Okay.
We also do work with Bridgestone Arena. The Downtown Partnership has a special events parking program that allows citizens to park in one of the stadium lots and either take a shuttle over to Bridgestone Arena for only $3, or they can park and walk across the bridge. But all parking revenue that's received goes towards paying off the bonds. So the Sports Authority is not, we generate revenue, but it doesn't stay in our pocket. It goes to the bonds.
So I pay $25 to park. All $25 goes to the parking bond fund.
We have a parking contractor, and so there's a shared revenue structure.
Okay.
So depending on the amount of revenue, for the first $60,000 each year, 50% goes to the Sports Authority, 50% goes to our parking contractor. Then there's another threshold from $60,000 to $100,000 where the Sports Authority, and this is the net, the Sports Authority receives 60% of the net. And then for revenues in excess of $100,000, the Sports Authority receives 65% of the net. And so all of the revenue that's generated that comes to the Sports Authority, not our parking contractor, goes to pay off the bonds.
Okay. So, and that's, say 1,000 cars come at $25 a car, then you're in the highest category of revenue for that event?
Well, it goes throughout the year, so it's not per event, but it's a kind of running total throughout the year. And our parking events are extremely reasonable. On average, we charge $5 a space for a lot. So it is, I think, the best value that you're going to find for downtown parking, no question about that. And that's important to us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Withers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Faulknerson, could you perhaps describe the PIP that was submitted, just briefly, that's referenced in the budget summary?
Yes, so we've asked for $53,700 for the special events coordinator. And we feel like this is extremely important. We have been a two-person department since day one, but in the last 2 years, we've taken on 2 additional facilities. And so we want to make sure that we continue to provide a very high quality of service to our constituents. And I think the best way to do that is to have someone who's dedicated to that position. So we feel like that we will serve the public better. It will also allow us, I believe, to serve the facilities better because we'll be removing a large piece of the portfolio as a two-person department.
Okay, thank you. As a district council member where Nissan Stadium is located, certainly my constituents are affected by traffic and parking and events, although we like to enjoy those ourselves as well. And I know Council Lady Gilmore referenced that from representing the other side of the river, that does have a lot of effect on the downtown area. And so periodically we do get, as district council members, or I'm sure as well as at large, we get concerns from constituents about how do I get in and out of here to my house. So I definitely support adding staffing that will help to facilitate those planning efforts and coordination with police and traffic in particular to help get our constituents in and out of there. So thank you.
Well, thank you
for that.
Councilman. We really want to make sure that we're communicating with all of the residents and constituents and meeting their needs.
Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Director Faulknerson. I am so happy that one of the smartest and greatest appointments for our 2015 year was your appointment over the Sports Authority, and I'm really pleased to have you there. The question that I have is Adele Tickets. When they came out, 10:10, they came out on 10 o'clock. By 10:10, they were sold out. Who's the ticket vendor? And is it, because it's my understanding that there may be some people who purchase all the tickets and then they try to scalp them. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, and I know that scalping is always a concern, and we want to make sure that as many people have access to the tickets as possible. I don't know if Kyle Clayton, who is here from Bridgestone Arena, if he would like to address that question. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. There's a...
Just go to the podium. To the podium.
Is he going around?
Test. Good afternoon. I'm Kyle Clayton with the Bridgestone Arena. I'm the Director of Financial Reporting. And as far as tickets go for Adele, I believe that was a Live Nation show. And as promoters go, you know, that they set the parameters of how many tickets are available on the on sale and things of that nature. So, you know, there are pre-sale opportunities for certain fan clubs, certain things like that. So there are tickets that are already off the market once a show goes on sale to the public at, say, 10 a.m. on the 10th. And at that point, there are tickets available at that certain time. But again, with, you know, the technology the way it is and the way on sales go, you know, it's on Ticketmaster, so everybody across the planet can buy that ticket at that moment. So of course, a high valued concert like that is gonna go very quickly. And we are part of a scalping coalition trying to do away with things like that. You know, that's something that we're constantly battling because again, you know, we want people in Nashville to be able to buy those tickets. Same thing with hockey games. We want people in Nashville to buy those tickets. We don't want third parties buying them and selling them on the secondary market and things of that nature. That's not beneficial for our business. We want people in this market to be able to buy the ticket for the lowest price possible. So that's something we work with Live Nation and Ticketmaster to put things in place to be able to combat those. But again, at the same time, you know, it's a free market at 10 a.m. that morning. So.
Right, but I mean, 10 minutes seem to be not really much time at all to be sold completely out of those tickets. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of regulation or something that can be filed to make sure that it's offered, you know, fairly to individuals.
I think it's clearly a very difficult situation and a challenge that needs to be worked through. And I wish I had the answer. Is
it a local thing, or is this something that would have to be regulated nationally?
This is definitely a national, you know, epidemic, if you want to call it that. I mean, this is, you know, Ticketmaster as a whole, they're trying to fight this as well. You know, they have their own, you know, exchange platform for people that buy tickets and can sell it through the secondary markets as well. It's definitely something across the board. It's not just a local issue, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to go back and inquire just regarding parking and parking revenue. You shared with us that parking revenue has gone up from $95,000 to $210,000, which is great in some ways because that's, you know, that's paying back that bond. But as well, I wonder, can you speak to how you all internally are somewhat analyzing the impact of parking? Because parking is such a great deal. So many people drive as individuals to your event, and that has somewhat of a negative impact on the city as a whole. Not just, I think, to particular districts, but just to the perception of going downtown and getting around and being in Nashville and coming downtown to kind of spend money. As you look at, it seems that there's somewhat of a conflict there, because we want to increase that parking revenue because it pays back that bond, but there is at a certain point kind of a tipping point where so many people are driving in for events because they don't really have an alternative. Can you just sort of speak to how your board thinks through that, just operationally from a funding standpoint, what your thoughts are on that?
I want to make sure that I understand your question. You're saying that there's some pros and cons.
Right. It's a little bit of a catch-22, I guess, because as parking revenue increases, that's great because we're paying back those bonds. But there's also sort of a negative spillover effect of people recognizing, and I concur with you, it's great for people to be able to come out and be entertained in our city at a good value, but also, there's been studies in other cities about when parking is not expensive enough or it's not at market, people don't, they don't share the car with their friends to go. They don't, just the impact there. Have you all looked at that as you think of alternatives around transit or ride sharing? What would that be negative from an operational revenue standpoint if you were to look at alternatives?
Council Lady Henderson, Kim Adkins, I'm the chair of the Metropolitan Sports Authority. I know Monica recently had conversations and has shared information and with former Councilman Peter Westerholm and the MPO, and they're looking at how do we address parking downtown and the challenges. And so I know that there have been positive conversations in that regard, but you're right, it is a bit of a catch-22, if you will, but it is being acknowledged, and we're considering it as we plan and move forward.
There's no question we want to make coming downtown as positive as an experience for citizens, for visitors as we can, and clearly traffic and parking is something that we're continuing to work on. Obviously, is a major priority of the mayor. And so as a sports authority, I think that we are interested in finding the balance and how do we walk that tightrope, and how do we make parking available and affordable on some levels, because there are a lot of people who cannot afford to pay $25 to come downtown. So we want to be mindful of that. We also see the advantages, obviously, of generating revenue so that we can pay off the bonds and meet the obligations that the Sports Authority has. And, I think that we are open to any discussions and suggestions and conversations as to how we can do that better, more effectively.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you mentioning Mr. Westerholm's study, because I think it's interesting to analyze really what is the cost to you as an entity and to the city of that parking space, truly, the cost of it.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Council Lady Bircher.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director. I want to thank you for everything that you do. I see you, Kim. Just don't want to shout you out like that. But anyway, I want you to speak to the PIP. You mentioned earlier about response times and how they would be faster. And I'm curious to know what the average response time is now, and what this additional personnel, what this yields fiscally. Are we losing out on events now because you're a two-person shop? And with the additional personnel, are we looking at being able to add and have multiple events because that person will be coordinating that and be more responsive to various entities? You provided the list. It's not an exhaustive list, about 38 events for 15-16. So with that additional person, will we see an increase in scheduled events, thus saying we would have an increase in revenues? Can you speak to that?
Yes, we do believe that we will see an increase in revenue and in the number of events that that come to, especially Nissan Stadium. The list before you is not in any way exhaustive, and it does not take into consideration the parking that the Sports Authority sells for Ascend Amphitheater. This does not include any of the Titans events. It does not include Bridgestone Arena events. I said Bridgestone Arena in terms of their event parking program through the Downtown Partnership. Also, the Bridge Building has events, multiple events every weekend, lots of weddings and parties. So the Sports Authority is involved in these events to varying degrees, and some more secondhand than other. But as we look at the logistics, then we want to make sure that we can serve the community and that we can meet the demand. So I think if you look at what we're doing right now, we are bringing in a lot of events. I do think that we can bring in more. You asked about times, service times. And, usually the process is we have an online, we have a link to an online event application. Usually we might get a call from an event organizer, or some just know to go to our website. They will fill out the application. Once we receive it, we contact them and we walk them through it. And for some events, it is very simple. It's a simple, streamlined process. They have hosted that event multiple times, and so they know what to do. For other events, it's hand-holding. And a lot of them, especially as groups come from out of town for a lot of these races and 5Ks, and may not have a local organizer, they're trying to understand how this whole process works. And so we spend quite a bit of time working with them, making sure that we don't want them to get the runaround. And I think now with the mayor's special events team, that is helping. But anything that we can do to meet their need, to answer their questions, and to get back to them as quickly as possible is just huge, because I think, as I said earlier, we're going to have first-time events and we're going to have reoccurring events. And if the events who have come choose not to come back because of an ineffective or an unhelpful process, then we're going to lose money. So we want to make sure that we are being very diligent, that we're answering their questions, that we are, as I said earlier, providing site visits, and anything else that we can do to make the process flow more smoothly.
If you could you quantify, for like any events that we're missing out on? I'm trying to do a comparison in consideration of the position. So the position is $53,700. If you could you quantify your impact for not having this position for some events that we may have lost because of not expedient response times and so forth? We're estimating that with the position, we'll see an increase of about 15% in terms of revenue. And the events are interesting because sometimes it is hard to quantify, because you can have a last-minute event that ends up producing revenues that are $12,000, or you might have one that's $800. So sometimes it's difficult to determine exactly what the impact will be, because it really depends on the event. So last weekend, Jazz on the Cumberland was in the park. We've worked with them for a couple of seasons. I talked to our parking contractor yesterday morning, and he said, up until Sunday, we had never parked more than 200 cars. But all of a sudden, the season opens, and the first event, they park almost 1,000 cars. So sometimes it's just really difficult to understand and to even kind of wrap your head around what may come. So we want to make sure that we are working with the groups,
But we would have lost a lot of revenue had we not been prepared for that particular event on Sunday night.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other members in the queue, we want to thank you, Director, for being here and appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.